Good evening, everyone. I'm going to talk about prompt engineering. He gave an introduction, so I'm going to introduce a bit further with general definitions. Prompt engineering is the art and science of refining inputs or the prompts that you give AI to get more accurate, creative, or useful outputs. So basically, you're like a director. If you give better instructions, you get better performance. Say, like the examples everyone else was giving, when you tell AI to give you, say for example, to tell you about the university, say you want to talk about a typical university experience, it will give you general information. But if you say you want to focus on if you ask it about a university experience, maybe at most you have given specification, given better instructions, so it will give better performance. Another definition we would use, it is the process of designing high quality prompts that guide LLMs to produce accurate outputs. And then in general, a prompt is an input you give to the model, generate a response or prediction. So basically, it involves tinkering with the AI to provide the best prompt. So you optimize the prompt length and evaluating a prompt writing style, structure, and in relation to the task you wanted to perform. Okay, we talked about it briefly, but I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about the anatomy of a perfect prompt. What should be in your prompt in order for you to get the best output from the LLM that you're giving a task. High quality prompt typically consists of 4 key elements, and while you may not always need them, the more you include them, the better the performance of the LLM you're using and the better the results you want. The first one is instruction. It's instruction. You have to specify the task you want it to perform. You have to tell it, write an essay. You have to tell it, create a report. You have to tell it exactly what you want it to do. That is the instruction. And then context. It is external information or a background to guide the AI. So for example, you want to learn about say like calculus, what I was talking about. You cannot ask AI, teach me calculus. So give it a number and tell it to do that. If you're a beginner, you must give it context and remind it sort of that you're a beginner. So that is the context. You give it an instruction, then you give it context. The other part is the input data. So if you wanted to answer a question for you, that is your input. So you have to specify, I want you to answer this question for me. And then the last part is an output indicator, the format or style you want it back. So for example, you ask it to write for you code about, maybe you could use an ambiguous question and say, how do I write a code that does this? If you want it to write for you the code, you must specify the output you want, that is the written code that you will get. So there are few techniques which we shall get into more later, but these are the basics I have for now on how to, the techniques you use in prompt engineering. There is the role play technique. You assign the AI a persona. You tell the AI that it is going to, let me explain. You assign it a persona, and then that have a brain. So the mental framework of the AI changes. So for example, you want to ask AI, maybe how to fix a door on its hinges, right? And you say how you can say how to fix it, but if you want using the role play technique, you can tell it act as a master. Let us go fix this. Okay, people act as someone who has maybe 20 years experience in this area. Explain to someone who has never held any tools before. You are giving it a role so that it explains better and gives you better output for what you want. Fusion prompting is the second one I have. It's like warming up the AI to give you to perform a task. So for example, you can say, I'm going to use an example of code. So for example, you want to see how it gives you the outputs it uses. So for example, you can say, if you want to make like a calculator, you can just say, tell it to write code for how to add. It will give you just simply how to add. You can ask it again, maybe how to subtract, how to divide. Give it small prompts slowly so that it kind of builds up, and then you can ask it the big, like the general work you want it to produce. So when you use fusion prompting, you give AI a few examples of the input and the desired output pattern, tone, or format that you're looking for. And then there is chain of thought. I already sort of talked about it. It is for complex logic or math. You ask the AI to go step by step. You could ask it to, you give it a number, say, take a picture of the question you want to answer, and tell it to give you an answer. So you could have a number and the answer is 26. It will give you an answer and just write 26. But if you say step by step, you're creating a chain of thought. So it is telling you start from here and go. So it is creating a chain of thought to get you to the answer you want, so that you understand better. So it prevents it from rushing to a wrong conclusion by forcing it to calculate intermediate steps. When you tell it to go step by step, that means there is careful consideration everywhere it's going, so it doesn't take a misstep and maybe lead you to the wrong answer. You get exactly what you're looking for. So the next part is the iterative process. So if the answer you put in from the AI is not what you want, you can refine it with phrases like maybe tell it to be more concise, or explain it like I'm 5 years old, or you can actually tell it to critique its own response and tell you the errors that it has found in its own response. Or you can tell it to, whatever the answer is, just giving, tell it to make it into a table. Put the answers for me in a table to like maybe a list of pros and cons, or negatives and positives, something like that. And then the last part is common pitfalls or mistakes people make with when they are doing prompt engineering, or when you're trying to get an AI to give you a specific answer. The number one is ambiguity. You give vague and very general prompts that you don't get exactly what you're looking for. So that is a failure. And then lack of context. You don't tell it the context of what you want it to do. You just give it general, and then you expect it to give exactly what you want. And then negative constraints. Negative constraints have to do with telling it maybe the answers have to be positive or have to be negative. Sometimes to get better, you must allow it to let you give you both the positive and the negative, so that you can compare and get better answers. That is all I had today. It was basically introduction. Thank you very much.